This is The Week on Word, a podcast featuring a roundup of the most interesting, informative, and entertaining interviews from Word Radio. You can listen to Word anywhere, anytime on WURDradio.com and the Word Radio app. Give us a play and download it today. In this episode, Mitra Kalita, veteran journalist and co-founder and CEO of URL Media, joined Evening WURDs with Dr. James Peterson to unpack the New York City mayoral race, where voters decisively supported Democratic nominee Zohran Mamdani. And Kevin Powell, acclaimed author, activist, and Grammy-nominated poet, appeared on Evening WURDs to discuss his debut documentary, When We Free the World. But first, Mustafa Rashed, president and CEO of Bellevue Strategies, joined Wake Up With WURD with Solomon Jones to break down the results of Tuesday's elections across the country.
Joining us now, Mustafa Rashed, he's president and CEO of Bellevue Strategies. He joins us to talk about the government shutdown. Mustafa, good morning.
Good morning, Solomon, and good morning to everyone listening, and happy Veterans Day. Happy Veterans Day to all the veterans out there.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Listen, we've been watching this government shutdown, and it is something that Democrats refused to give Republicans the votes they needed in order to reopen the government until there was funding for subsidies for the Affordable Care Act. 8 Democrats broke ranks. Matter of fact, 7 Democrats and 1 independent who caucuses with Democrats in order to give Republicans the votes they needed to reopen the government. You've watched this whole thing play out. What are your thoughts?
I'm confused about the politics of it, Solomon. And just as a practitioner of politics, it seems like Democrats chose the worst possible of the options. And I don't know why they did it. It makes it seem like for not to have waited all this time. They said that fighting for the extension of these healthcare subsidies was the most important thing. And they didn't get that. They got a promise for a vote on it, which they could have gotten that promise months ago. There was no need to do what they've done the last 6-7 weeks if all they were going to get was a promise on it. They got no guarantees from the House that they're going to take up the order. And so they really got nothing out of this. And I don't understand what the intent was. You know, coming 5 days off of Democratic wins all across the country, Chicago, Georgia, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and Virginia, and you thought the win was at their backs and that people had said, we want you to fight. We want you to fight for what you believe in. And then to cave on this does not make a lot of sense to me.
So it's 8 people who did this. And my question is, does it hurt the whole party as a whole? Because everybody else said, we're not going to vote with you. We are going to hold our ground. Does what these 8 people did, does it reflect on the whole Democratic Party?
I think it does. I think people are looking for leadership. I think people are looking to make sure that their voices are heard. And I don't think that this shows people that their voices are heard. And I think you have to lay the responsibility at the feet of the Senate Minority Leader, Chuck Schumer. It's like, we want to know what it is that you're doing. How are you leading your caucus? You said that you were going to fight for the extension of these healthcare subsidies, and we have not seen that happen. They could have reopened the government by agreeing to eliminate the 60 vote threshold for the filibuster. Like, there's a lot of different ways they could have done this instead of the way that they're doing it. And again, it doesn't make sense to me. And I think there's a lot of explaining they need to do to people to let us know what they're thinking.
So, I think one of the things that has happened is that Chuck Schumer is really on the hot seat. To your point, people are calling for him to step down as the minority leader because he has not led his caucus in a way where they could remain unified on something where it certainly looked to the naked eye like they were winning.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's going to come a telling of exactly what happened. I mean, there's no secret that the 7 Democrats who did vote are not up for re-election in the next few years or are retiring. And so politically, they're not going to have to face voters over their decision anytime soon. And so there's a part of me that makes me think that maybe the Senate Minority Leader had some part in it, and he turned them loose to be able to do this. And I'm sure those stories will come out over the next few days and weeks. But the whole point of holding your caucus together and making sure that people felt that you were fighting for what you said that you were going to fight for, that feels for naught now. That feels like that's gone by the wayside. And I think there's going to have to come a day of reckoning for it. And if it requires new leadership, new voices in that, then I think that may have to happen.
So you think that maybe the minority leader knew, Chuck Schumer knew that they were going to do this. He gave them their blessing to do it.
I suspect that's highly likely. When you look at the 7 members who have done it, none of them are for re-election in the next 2 years. I think 2 of them are set to retire next year. And so they're not going to face voters anytime soon to answer these questions about why they did this. So, voters we all do. We have a very short memory. We forget because a lot of things are happening, and in 2 years' time from now, there will be new things that are pressing for us to remember, and we won't remember this at all. I mean, challengers will have a conversation about this in the primary, but it gives you enough time to go work on and get other things done. And so I'm highly doubtful that these 7 members did this on their own without at least the tacit blessing of the minority leader. Okay,
so you had 7 Democrats and you have 1 independent who caucuses with Democrats, Angus King out of Maine. So they all do this. I guess that theory would make sense to me if Democrats were losing on the shutdown.
Yeah,
they just came off an election where they Right. And that's, again, the politics of it. As a practitioner of politics, it just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. You had the win at your back. The president was saying end the shutdown. Republicans knew that they had missed the mark and missed an opportunity. Democrats felt empowered. And then you capitulate. And you did not get the one thing that you said was the most important thing, was an extension of these healthcare subsidies. Because the estimates are 20 to 24 million Americans. Healthcare premiums went up last week. And that was the point of this shutdown, was to make sure that this got taken care of, and that did not happen. So I guess my question then is, should Democrats have even believed that the House was going to call up a bill and vote on it around these Affordable Care Act subsidies when Republicans are in control of the House? They don't have to bring up anything that they don't want to. Senate, too. They don't have to bring up the bill if they don't want to. So they told you, We're going to bring this bill. Should they have believed that promise?
No, they should not have. The Democrats should not believe that. Republicans, that leadership have held the House out since September 22nd, I believe. It's been a while. They have not been in Washington, D.C. for quite some time. They said they're not coming back until the government was open. And I don't know why they would believe that this time when they have no reason to have seen that this would happen in the past. I don't know. I don't get it. I don't understand what the calculus is. And it seems like a bad decision to think that Republicans should operate in good faith. To your point, where they don't have to bring this up at all if they don't want to. Mm-hmm. I don't know why Democrats would follow this playbook.
Yeah, it is. It's baffling to me. We're talking with Mustafa Rashed. He's president and CEO of Bellevue Strategies, and we're talking about the government shutdown. So you had 7 Democrats, 1 independent, break ranks, and vote with Republicans to reopen the government with essentially nothing in return. Now, the question is, and I'll ask you this and then we'll move on. Do you think that there were some things that were given in the background? Like, I'm trying to understand why you would do this when you get nothing.
Hey, they got a promise, Solomon. they got a promise. And again, the promise is that the Senate leadership would allow a bill to be brought up sometime in the future. Senate leadership cannot make any promises for what happens on the House side. Senate leadership cannot make any promises about if a bill should reach the president's desk and should he sign it or veto it. All they got is a promise in their caucus that there will be a vote on the extension of these healthcare subsidies sometime soon.
They're making my head hurt. I can't.
I mean, we're laying it. I mean, Solomon, if there was spin on this ball, they would have spun it. I don't believe there's any spin.
Wow. Okay. So what happens then from here? I mean, the midterms are coming up. You've got these 8 people who have essentially made the whole party look bad. They've just won this big election. 44 million people are on have their health care coverage through the Affordable Care Act. Their subsidies are getting ready to go through. Their subsidies are going away. Their prices are going to go through the roof. What happens going forward? How do you see the politics of this playing out?
I think the politics of it is, I wish there were a better term, but I believe the politics of this is continued disgust and apathy. I mean, if you're a citizen in any of these, you're a voter in any of these states where, where this impacts you or your healthcare subsidies are going up, and we're watching people, their SNAP benefits being given, then taken away, then moved around, then getting partial amount. We're watching 3 million federal workers who are about to miss their third paycheck. It just feels like chaos, and people are looking for answers and solutions for a government that's supposed to protect them and look after them, and they're not feeling that way right now. And so I think the default position is disgust and apathy about what's happening to them right now, because the government can't seem to get it together.
Yeah, it's interesting. I had a caller call me earlier and say, my wife is a federal worker, and certainly we feel empathy for that. I worked for the federal government, worked for city government. I understand, and hate to see people missing their paycheck. But that's 3 million people. There are 44 million people on the Affordable Care Act.
Yep. There absolutely are. And most estimates are that your premiums have doubled. And so, at a time where you're going to have to pay, and these are small business owners. These are people that are in between jobs. These are people who are underemployed. A lot of people are people who are in transition, seniors, veterans. There are a lot of people who are using the healthcare subsidies to be able to afford healthcare in this country. And a lot of people are being impacted by it. And, imagine being told that your subsidies are going to go from $800. Your healthcare premium is going to go from $800 a month to $1,600 a month. And now you can't sort of offset that because your SNAP benefits maybe have taken away or impacted. In other areas, life is already expensive. Mortgages are high, rents are high. Life in itself is high. Inflation's been going up for quite some time. And so now I'm telling you, I'm taking some money out of your pocket, but it's not going to go to increase the quality of your life, but it's just going to pay for something that you're already getting. That's a hard proposition for a lot of people, Solomon.
How much of a win is this for Republicans?
I think they win because they said they were not going to negotiate to open the government. They said that they were not going to do anything until Democrats gave them the votes they needed to do so. And so this certainly feels like it. I'm certain the president will present it that way, that we said that, Democrats have said all along this is up to Republicans to end it. Republicans have said the same about Democrats. And now Democrats gave their votes to Republicans to end the shutdown. I think the finger pointing is going to go in the direction of Democrats to say that you caused this shutdown. And I think people would have accepted that you caused this shutdown if they saw something meaningful come out of it. But that is not going to happen. And so I think the natural default position there is to blame Democrats for the shutdown.
And so the president, who has already really started saying that the whole shutdown was a hoax, of course, continuing to blame Democrats. Does he have a point where voters are concerned? Are voters going to believe what he's saying?
I believe so. I've not seen or can't imagine at this point. I'm sure it's possible, but I've not seen the spin from the Democrats on how they present this. Even Senate Democrats, the other 40 some odd members who are not okay with this, have said so, that this is hard. This is tough. This is going to be difficult to explain to the American people what we were so unified and fired up against, why we feel like we did so well in these elections the last week. And then to turn and take this position, it's hard. It's hard. They've said so. And I imagine it's going to continue to be hard over the next days and weeks to try to explain what their leadership is doing.
So one of the senators who voted for this, and in fact had said weeks ago, we need to reopen the government. We need to do a clean continuing resolution. He was willing to do it for nothing weeks ago. That's Senator John Fetterman out of Pennsylvania. Yeah. What does this mean for Fetterman? Because he got a lot of votes from people who were, on the left in the party. And he has been somebody who has not really represented that point of view. And from what I've seen, what have you seen from him?
Well, I've seen him take a more pragmatic, moderate approach, or centrist approach since he's been in office, which is a far cry from the progressive approach he took when he ran in office. He has been saying the last 5 or 6 weeks that shutdowns are stupid. I think most of us will have to agree with him that they are stupid and they do hurt people. And based on that, he had wanted to end it. But I think that this goes more toward further away from what the progressives want to see out of Senator Fetterman and more what centrists and moderates want to see. But he also has to think about what's best for the state of Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania is the purplish states, and that position that he's taken, it may align with where he thinks Pennsylvania is and where it needs to go. And so that's going to play itself out as well. But again, remember, he's not up for election for quite some time. And there will be a lot of other decisions and conversations and opportunities between now and then to talk about what he's done since then that will take some attention away from this vote yesterday.
Yeah. So he on social media said this: "I'm sorry to our military, SNAP recipients, Gov workers, and Capitol Police who haven't been paid in weeks. It should have never come to this. This was a failure." That sounds like a Republican message.
It does. It's also not wrong because, the end result will tell the tale. If today Republicans agree to immediately take a vote on the healthcare subsidies and address that, then it's a different conversation. He would say, "Hey, it worked." He may say it was dumb and it was unfortunate to hurt people and have them lose paychecks and hope that we figure out a way to get them back for those federal workers. But the ending of the story could have been very, very different if Democrats had held fast for what they said that they were going to do. And that's not the truth now. The truth now is that they held out, they got nothing, and they went right back to where they started from 7 weeks ago.
Well, he's part of the reason why. So the question is, what does this mean for him politically?
For him politically, he's in the right place as far as this shutdown goes, because he said it hurts people and it's dumb, and that the business of politicians in Washington is to get the government open and running. And so today he's right. Tomorrow may be a different story, but today he's right because of the outcome is dictating his position as opposed to the other way around. He's right today. You can't argue with the position. You may not like the position. We may wish he had held out. We may wish he was more aligned with progressives. But today he said that it was a dumb idea to do it and that people need to get back to Washington and get the government open, and that's what happened.
Well, I know where I'm going in 2028. He's running again in 2028. I'm a Pennsylvania voter. I mean, I'm speaking as a voter right now. And the question is, will people remember this in 2028? You said voters have short memories. It's 2025. It's going to be 3 years from now. Will people remember that John Fetterman was one of the ones who did not hold the line and then turned around and blamed his own party?
Yeah, absolutely. And so someone will have to make that argument to get traction in 2 years' time from now. And, that remains to be seen that if that's going to happen, if that argument, if they're going to be able to make that argument, but there's going to be a lot of other, it's a long time, Solomon. A lot of other things are going to happen between now and then.
Mm-hmm. All right. That is Mustafa Rashed, President and CEO of Bellevue Strategies. He joined us to talk about the shutdown. I want to thank you so much.
You're listening to The Week on Word.
Why is WURD important to the community?
It matters to me because I was only successful truly through Black media. If we're just keeping it all the way 100, if it wasn't for Black media, you wouldn't know who a Music Soul Child is. Please support your local Black media, all Black media, because this is the media that supports you.
We are giving voice to the community, and without the community, there will be no WURD. We are one and the same, and it is not a game. WURD.
This is The Week on Word, a podcast highlighting the top conversations on Word Radio. Make sure you look for and follow Word Radio on social media. Up next, Mitra Kalita, veteran journalist and co-founder and CEO of URL Media, joined Evening WURDs with Dr. James Peterson.
So excited to welcome to this program Mitra Kalita, a veteran journalist, media executive, prolific commentator, author of 2 books, by the way, Suburban Sahibs, 3 Immigrant Families and Their Passage from India to America, and My 2 Indias. Mitra is a giant in the world that we live in, and of course, co-founder and CEO of URL Media, a network of Black and Brown community news outlets that share content and revenue. Here to talk about what the heck just happened in New York City last night. I am happy to welcome to this program Mitra Kalita. Mitra, welcome to Evening WURDs.
Oh, it's so good to be with you. I love WURD, as you know. So
yes, you do. And we love your work. Fascinating article by you and your colleagues about last night's election. Can we first I want to talk about turnout, because the logic for leftists and for Democrats has often been that turnout is the key for everything. I know that your reporting suggests that this is historic turnout. Talk to our listeners about how historic this turnout was for this mayoral election.
Well, we haven't seen this turnout since 1969, and that's just like a different era of how New Yorkers voted.
Wait,
right?
50 plus years?
Yeah. It's crazy since John Lindsay won re-election. So this is like, it's kind of like generationally historic, right? I mean, this is really significant. And once upon a time, like voter turnout across the country was much higher, especially for, what's called off-year elections, kind of not presidential year elections. There's even something on our ballot questions this year saying, should we all just vote at the same time as the presidential? And that was voted down because, New Yorkers, we see ourselves as a special kind of people. So,
well, you are.
Yeah, we are. But, so more than 2 million votes were cast. Really, really significant. And, I just think about this. I've worked in Washington, D.C. I've worked in New York City. I've worked in Los Angeles. Everywhere I've worked as a Metro reporter, we have, and I know this is an issue in Philly. I've never worked in Philly, but I'm on the board of the Inquirer. Mm-hmm. Voter turnout is a real issue. I mean, just getting people to vote, getting people to care. And I think that's connected to this current moment in democracy. So, and part of it is that we keep saying, your role in democracy boils down to whether you vote or not. And of course, you and I know there are ways that you show up every day. Right. What you and I are doing right now is a part of democracy, right?
Hello.
Yep. Which is why I love WURD. So turnout, historic, more than 2 million voters, really significantly first-time voters. And it's not just young people, although, of course, young people galvanized Zohran Mamdani to the victory. I'll tell you, just today, I went on another TV station this morning, New York One, and on my way up, the Pakistani security guard and I started talking. He's probably late 40s, early 50s. That's my guess. He's never voted in his life. And this was the first election he voted in. So that's the type of, what propelled voter turnout. It's people like him that are immigrants. He said, I'm not going to vote in Pakistan. It's corrupt politicians. It's not my thing. I come to the U.S. I still don't feel like it's my thing. This guy runs and suddenly I'm voting, right? That's the shift.
Mitra, you also founded Epicenter NYC, and I feel like Mamdani's campaign is like in alignment with the mission of Epicenter in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Right?
Even our colors are the same.
It's weird. It's weird. I don't want to. It's weird on stuff. But wait, but for can you help folks understand? Because yes, a lot of people came out, but there is a certain way that Mamdani was campaigning that really had a more neighbor to neighbor feel than anything that I've seen in my political lifetime. But that's me watching it on TV and on social. What's it like covering it through Epicenter NYC, given, again, I think there's some mission alignment between his campaign style and what you all do in terms of journalism and covering the news?
I've done a lot of media on this. You're asking me the smartest question that I think actually taps into New York organizing after COVID and how key that is to Mamdani's rise. And nobody else has kind of picked up on this. And what you just said, Epicenter was born more than 5 years ago out of the pandemic. It was very organically created. Our neighborhood in Jackson Heights, Queens, one of the most diverse neighborhoods on the planet, was reeling from COVID-19. And people had questions like, where can I get a COVID test? My uncle needs to get on a ventilator, but also kind of questions like, is there yeast at the shop down the street? Are they practicing social distancing? Does anyone have a recipe for you remember this, right? We were sort of born out of, exactly to your point, these like neighborly needs that are at once existential, but also not necessarily, right? Just kind of light and, neighborly, right? Like, how do I exist in this community?
Like mutual aid without calling it mutual aid.
Right. That's right. So I do think that there's an element of mutual aid of our journalism that was like, look, we were born out of necessity. People were asking us questions. We were here to help. My husband's an artist, and I share that because Zohran Mamdani's wife is an artist, and he spent some years, as you know, as a rapper. He helped his mother is a filmmaker. His father's a professor. And as you know, the older we get, we realize we're a culmination of all that came before us, right?
That's right.
And so just as Epicenter's founding really relied on artists seeing our future, I often say they paint our future. They see things that others don't. A lot of people turning to me and my husband during COVID-19 in 2020 was born out of legitimate community ties, right? You should not start a local news outlet unless you know your neighbor's name, unless you're a little bit nosy, unless you're, right? So I think what we saw in this campaign was a similar familiarity and the intersectionality that mainstream media kind of tried to play a little bit of gotcha on, like, hey, he says he's African American. And he was like, well, I was born in Uganda. And they're like, why were you born in Uganda? You're Indian. And it's like, well, I'm Indian, but my dad...
The world is global, you fools. What are you talking about?
My dad is Muslim. My mom is Hindu. His mom, of course, is Mira Nair, who directed Denzel Washington and Sarita Chaudhary and Mississippi Masala.
A great film.
Great film. And about kind of Black Indian relations and how immigrant communities have some anti-Blackness built into the way that they operate in America, but the racism that they face it was a really complex film. So
that's right.
He's born in this intersectional mecca. And I think Epicenter similarly was born out of an intersectional mecca of Jackson Heights, Queens. Of course, we can't cover Queens without covering the world.
Right.
And I think he tapped into that. Now, we've tapped into that. I would love to have some of the numbers this man has on social media, but I probably need to do more video like he does.
The kudos to the production side of his social media work is top notch as well.
Yeah.
Those are pretty good filmmakers on that side. So Mitra, I feel like, first of all, I love Mamdani for New York. I'm sorry, I'm not endorsing candidates. I'm just saying I love this for New York City, right? Yeah. But I honestly feel like his ascension here, and it really is an ascension, folks. This guy was polling at, according to Epicenter's reporting, like 1%, right? When he started, right? But he stayed on message, stuck to affordability. But for me, I feel like this is more of a wake-up call for Democrats than it is for Republicans.
Totally.
How do you see this in terms of the political response to this?
The biggest mistake we could make is looking at the election results and the Democratic sweep in Virginia, New York City, New Jersey, and California, and the proposition, and think, oh wow, the Democrats did this. Right? That would be a big mistake because I feel like this happened in spite of the Democrats in New York City. Really.
Representative Jeffries didn't want to endorse. He came slow. Representative Schumer, I don't know if Schumer ever did endorse, right?
Yesterday, he was asked, who did you vote for? And he said, I'd prefer not to answer, and I'm going to work with whoever comes in. Wow. There's just something about that where you just wonder, is your only goal to keep yourself in power, which I think we know the answer to that. And that is really fraught right now. So I feel like what you saw, but here's the thing. I thought Mamdani was pretty classy. To your point, he stayed on message, right? He's like, well, this election isn't about Chuck Schumer. And I've had this conversation with Sarah Lomax, your CEO at WURD, about, I was feeling a certain way about Mamdani not getting the Black establishment in New York, right? Southeast Queens is the second largest Black middle class population in the country. It is a really important part of New York City politics. It's historically played a role. These are neighborhoods like Jamaica, Queens, and St. Albans, and of course it's where Kennedy Airport is. And then other places like Harlem, right? Which of course Harlem has gentrified, but this is still, the kind of mecca of making it among Black Americans. And so it might just be that I've covered New York City politics for so long. I thought he's going to have to get these populations. And I think not only did he stay classy and kind of dodge some of the Democratic issues, and as you know, Black establishment, Hakeem Jeffries included, have kind of aligned themselves with the Democratic Party, like the establishment, right?
Yes.
What he did, he was like, you know what? Screw it. I'm going to go to the Bronx. I'm going to go deep into Brooklyn. I'm still going
to go to the Wu-Tang conference. Let me say something. I challenge any Black person my age. I'm 54. Watch Mamdani when he's backstage at the Wu-Tang and tell me you're not going to vote for him.
Yeah. So he sort of aligned. There was a lot of influencers. I don't even know them. Afro-Latinos. He just found these people where you're watching it and you kind of get seduced, and you're like, maybe this is possible. So similar to you, I know you said I like this for New York. I've really tried to observe this, not dispassionately, not neutrally, but with some skepticism that's just from conditioning of covering New York City for a few decades and being like, could this really be happening, right? And he did it.
It seems a little surreal. It does seem a little surreal.
The Bronx is like the blackest borough. It's like 60% of. You saw record turnout even in the Bronx, right?
Wow.
And so I think that I think he kind of rewrote the political map. He really rewrote the political map, and the
candidates that bring new voters in are revising the map, right? He brought in a lot of young folks. He probably brought in more immigrants than any candidate in recent memory preceding him. Mitra, I want to talk a little bit about some of his policies, right? Yeah. And I'll just let you know. I've talked to other folks about this. I don't think his policies are radical. What I would like is, based on your reporting, to kind of give us a sense of how to put some of these things in context. So, rent freeze is not anything new in New York City, but they're trying to make us think this is some radical new thing he's trying to do. Even publicly owned grocery stores is not some kind of far out concept of a free bus or subsidies for public transportation. These are not far out concepts. Moderate Democrats, Republicans, and other folks want us to believe this is some radical stuff. Give us a little bit of the New York City context for those kinds of policies.
I would say housing, since our inception, housing has been a crisis that we've covered. And I always say local news, when I was at CNN, we covered evictions, like your furniture's on the sidewalk. Those are important stories. Of course, they
horrible stories, but
horrible stories. However, local news, we're trying to keep you in your home, right? And so our utility is a little bit more, how do you negotiate with your landlord? How do you know whether your rent hikes are unlawful, right? Who is a tenant rights lawyer? Those are the sorts of questions that we get, and we've been getting them steadily for our entire existence. I think on housing, what he is proposing is driven by the reality of wages in New York City not keeping up with the cost of living, right?
It's mathematics, folks. It's mathematics.
I was talking to a young journalist the other day. She got her first job. She needed some advice. Should I take it or not? And I said, if you don't mind me asking, what's the salary? And she said $58,000. And I said, when I started in journalism 30 years ago, that was my starting salary. That's not a good thing. In 30 years, we've not made any progress on wages. And if anything, the current labor market is really realigning kind of the marketplace of salary. So I have to connect housing and food insecurity and the cost of childcare and even transportation, to your reference to free buses. The elephant in the room is that wages have not kept up with with the cost of living. He tapped into that big time. Policy-wise, he does have a tough road ahead of him.
You got a city council there in New York City.
Yeah. City council has been very aligned with him. It's a pretty left-leaning city council. It's a majority-minority city council. It's a majority-woman city council.
So that's awesome.
So what's happened, the other thing is Mamdani, of course, as mayor is historic, but the table was set. And I think a lot of this is thanks to COVID-19. I know that, DEI might be like over for a lot of people, but in 2020 and 2021, as a lot of these city council races were up for election, you suddenly saw a wave of immigrants taking office,
women,
blacks, Latinos, women, politicians that you just, wouldn't have seen before. So his table has been set, I think, by some people he can work with. The question, I think, is the level of government he comes out of, state government, right? Is he going to be able to get what he needs there? I also don't think we should dwell too much on the tradition. To your point, like, should we dwell on the traditional way of doing things, or, does it need to be a city-run grocery, or is it that people are actually voting because food prices are too high, and we need to figure out so is it a city-run grocery? I don't know. I mean, I'm sometimes I just wonder. I look at the lines at the food pantries, and we've been doing stories on this too. Should we just give people cash and vouchers to go to the grocery store? Like, what are we doing here? These are the questions that I think he's going to be sorting through. What he did, and your recall on what his platform is, not living in New York, is precisely the point. He connected with people on these, just kind of day in, day out.
Day to day. That's right. Day-to-day kitchen table. Mitra, unfortunately, we are out of time. I just just one more question. There are questions about his capacity to kind of harness and hone in and have the kind of interface with the business community that a mayor of New York City has to have. I know the Wall Street guys might claim like they don't like him so much, but I would imagine that there have to be some smart enough business people to know that New York, the way it is right now, is not sustainable. Its population, like the size of it, is not sustainable with the affordability crisis that Mamdani has pointed out in his campaign. Do you think, from your reporting, are you seeing in terms of his capacity to make those important connections at the business, at the Wall Street money level of New York City?
Yeah, great question. I had breakfast this morning actually with kind of a CEO whisperer in New York City, and she's amazing. I mean, she had brokered basically a meeting with Mamdani and CEOs. And I do see that dialogue happening. Many of them, as you know, have really been concerned on the issue of Israel, which, would take another hour for us to dive into.
Lord, we got to invite you back to talk about that. That's right.
But I think that dialogue is happening. I think he knows he needs them. And then the other issue that really did propel him too is small business. I mean, on some small business and entrepreneurship issue, he sounded downright libertarian. Right? In terms of saying there's too much regulation. So I think the connection, and I see this as a business owner who depends on Wall Street, right? I depend on markets. I depend on, this moment of uncertainty has been really hard for small business. So that interconnectedness, if he doesn't get it now, he's about to get a crash course in it, because that's how New York City runs, right? Wall Street is a vital part of our economy, and you can hate it, but that doesn't change its status in the city of New York. Yeah.
Mitra Kalita, veteran journalist, media executive, commentator, author of 2 books, founder of 2 incredible companies. The first, Epicenter New York City, or Epicenter NYC, which started as a newsletter to help New Yorkers get through the pandemic and has become one of the premier community journalism platforms there in the city. And obviously, co-founder and current CEO of URL Media, friend to WURD right here in Philadelphia. Mitra, it's great to talk to you. I know this is your first time on us really talking. Let's do it again, please.
I'm happy to come on anytime. I love what you all do, and let's keep talking.
You're listening to The Week on Word. Represent your favorite station in style. Look for Afrocentric tees, hoodies, tumblers, notebooks, mugs, and more. Just click the shop tab at wordradio.com. Show the world that you're all about Black Talk Media.
You gotta look good.
You're listening to the Week on Word podcast. To learn more about our programming, simply visit WURDradio.com. Our last conversation for this episode features Kevin Powell, acclaimed author, activist, and Grammy-nominated poet who appeared on Evening WURDs to discuss his debut documentary, When We Free the World.
I'm honored and very, very excited to welcome to this program Mr. Kevin Powell, who is a celebrated political, cultural, and literary voice here in America, Grammy Award-nominated poet and civil rights activist, has been engaging with nearly every democratic movement of the latter 20th and early 21st centuries, either as a servant leader, a behind-the-scenes advocate, or in a leadership position itself, with fellow change agents. Here to talk about his new film, When We Free the World, I want to welcome to Evening WURDs the good brother Kevin Powell. Brother Powell, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Of course. Good brother. First of all, how are you doing, man? It's been too long since I've seen you in person. How you doing, good brother?
Oh, man, I'm happily married, and I'm happy.
Those things go hand in hand. The new film is When We Free the World. It's a documentary film that examines black masculinity, black manhood, through your unique and deeply informed cultural lens. Talk to us a little bit about the genesis of the project and what made you decide to return to this issue and this challenge and this concept now.
I mean, it's been 6 years in the making, and honestly, my whole adult life, just as an activist and writer, dealing with issues of black manhood, black fatherhood, not having a father in my own life, that was a big part of it that has had a profound effect on me, just trying to figure out what it is to be a man in this world as a person navigating it as a black male. You know what we have to deal with, Dr. Peterson. You deal with it in your own life as a black male. I mean, the traumas we carry, the challenges that we face, the horrific racism that we experience from every angle, all of that had an impact on me. But also just, seeing conversations in the black women's community. I always said to myself, outside of Haki Madhubuti and Jawanza Kunjufu, it's not like there's been a huge body of work where we've really done a lot of deep diving. We've written about black males, we've written about black iconic figures, but I'm like, man, let's do something that really brings together those different black male voices. And when I saw Beyonce's Lemonade about 10 years ago, and I sat there and watched it because I saw the reaction to it from black women around the country, I was like, man, I want to do something like this visually. I'd never done a film before, but I knew that I needed to get away from. I'm always going to be a writer, but I was like, I want to make films. In the spirit of Usman Sabeni, I know that that folks, will watch something faster than they'll read something. And honestly, out of all the books that I've done, the 16 books I've done, the Black Male Handbook has been the one that has had the biggest response to it. I said, so imagine if we made this into a film, and so. That's what it became. It was supposed to be a short film, 5 to 10 minutes. It turned into a feature-length documentary that we literally got 70 black male voices from teenagers to 90-somethings, but this film has 12 PhDs, folks like yourself. Where do you see a gathering of black males with PhDs with doctor in front of the name? That's not just one or two brothers. We have brothers who are formerly incarcerated. We have straight brothers, queer brothers, transgender brothers, differently able, disabled brothers. We have brothers who live with dwarfism, who are short-statured brothers, because we just wanted to make sure we represented all these different types of identities, and at the same time deal with history, deal with manhood, deal with fatherhood, deal with mental health, deal with suicide is covered in the film. We have brothers who have survived sexual assault as children talking about it for the first time in the film. I mean, it's a labor of love, and we've been touring with it all year, just really bringing it to different communities. People always ask me, when is it going to scream? But that's not hard. You can actually put a film up on Amazon anytime and it's screaming, but yourself. But for us, Dr. Peterson, it's been the conversations that have been had from stop to stop, where brothers have really opened up to the point where we we need a study guide. So we created a study guide that will be released next year that goes with the film. We're creating a website that's will go live in the first part of next year, and we're also going to turn this into a one-day manhood conference where people who are experts like yourself, we hope, when we come to places like Philadelphia again, will be some of the speakers that will be a part of this thing, because we're just trying to give brothers solutions and action steps. And the other part of it for me, brother, is just how many brothers we're losing who are only in their 30s.
Oh, bro, don't get me started on that. The one of the plights of growing older as a black man is seeing black men die well before their time, in your family, in your friendship circle, in your community.
Brother, Dr. Peterson, let me tell you something, man. You've seen the list. I've seen it's floating around the social media. Yeah. Some of it, a lot of it is preventable stuff, and I don't judge anyone, because in my lifetime I have drank, I have smoked, I have eaten every kind of part of the pig you can think of. You know what I'm saying? But I'm a vegan. I exercise. I run. I don't drink anymore. I don't smoke anymore, because I've seen, man. I've had friends that I've buried, man. Where I'm like, man, if we could have just turned your diet around a little bit. If you could have just...
There are some things that we can control, Brother Powell. You're right, that we have to take some agency. I just want to mention that the film is screening locally here on Thursday, November 6th, at the opening night for the 4th annual Diamond Street Black Film Festival at the theater in Wilmington. at Theater N in Wilmington, Delaware at 6 p.m. And I'll say that information again, folks, more slowly.
Thank you so much.
Afterwards. My producers just let me know, hey, make sure you talk about that. And I just did, Terry Tillman. Brother Powell, I haven't seen the full film yet. I've seen the trailer. I'm familiar with the Black Male Handbook. You have been very steady in your push and your explication of why our concept of what Black masculinity is and what Black manhood is has to be inclusive. Talk to our listeners a little bit about how you landed there and why you see inclusivity in terms of thinking about Black masculinity and Black manhood as being a vital component of what will strengthen us and cultivate the community going forward.
Great questions. I just want to shout out Sister Terry, Sister Ashanti, because they made this happen. But
bro, Black women run this. They run this show and they run this station and they do a real good job of it, bro.
and Black women are a huge part of how I came here. Reading bell hooks, doing the last interview ever with Audre Lorde and hearing her story. Toni Morrison, Sonia Sanchez, paying attention to folks, but also I got to shout out the queer Black male community. Not just the folks that people quote all the time, like James Baldwin, who I love dearly, big influence in my life, but the unsung heroes who talked about how they felt marginalized and left out of the conversations around Black masculinity, around Black manhood. And I'm saying this as a heterosexual brother, cisgender brother, straight brother. It's like, I don't want to turn around and say, okay, I'm oppressed, and then go oppress other people. So I don't want to say that, well, I'm been erased as a brother, then turn around and erase other people. So that's why it's important. And when we started working on this film, I knew that I wanted to make sure that queer brothers were represented. And with the way we put the film together, and I can't wait till you see it, brother. We don't ghettoize and say, okay, here's the straight dudes over here, here's the queer and trans dudes over here. It's all of the stories are woven together.
Inclusive vision, Brother Powell. I'm not surprised by that from you at all. Inclusive vision.
I mean, one of the most powerful scenes is when we have two brothers on screen going back and forth. One is straight, one is queer, but they both talk about what their father said to them about being pulled over by the police. And it's a really profound moment because we're saying to folks, we're still Black males here. We're still brothers here. And for us also, it's just like, we know that with the erasing of Black history, which as a historian, one of our best historians out there in the country, Dr. Peterson, you see what's happening to our people. We cannot afford to erase and eliminate each other. And we're just like, brothers, we know we have genius in us, we know we have power in us, but we have to confront racism, but we also have to confront sexism and homophobia and transphobia, ageism. We got to confront the ableism. We got to confront all of these things because we will not be free as a people. And ultimately, the film is like, how do we heal and how do we have hope? The last chapter of the film is called Hope, because like, how do we heal? How do we have hope? And I think about the people that I studied coming up, like Malcolm and who he became at the end of his life, and imagine what he could have been if he had been assassinated. And this film is just really to try to have conversations, and the recurring theme throughout is that Black males have to talk. Black males have to talk. Black males have
about
to
their
talk.
pain, about their experiences, about their challenges, about their mental health.
Exactly. And what we find for us, so-called straight brothers, cisgender brothers like myself, a lot of times we'll talk about sports. I'm a big sports fan.
I talk about sports all the time. Yep.
Yeah, we'll talk about women and sex. I'm married, and before that, sure did. And then we talk about our careers or money, and that often is it. And then we often shut down, and we're like, nah, man, this has got to be expansive. And so, again, back to Black women, when you look at the body of work, it's an expansive conversation, and we're like, we got to expand this conversation, brothers, because, too many brothers committing suicide, too many brothers dying of preventable things, too many brothers walking around in pain. I mean, man, in this society, we know what this society does to us every single day of our lives. And so we don't need to, I'll put it to you like this, brother. This film, like I said, took 6 years. In 2020, I went through a divorce. I went through a second bankruptcy. COVID was happening. Kobe Bryant died. That affected me. Chadwick Boseman died. That affected me. I'm saying this to you. I haven't said it publicly a lot, but I was really at my wit's end, and people were like, "Kev, you?" I'm like, "Yeah, man. I was in probably the worst depression of my life, Dr. Peterson, that year." And then one of my friends committed suicide in the midst of all of that, and I was just really going through it, and I was actually uttering that I didn't want to be here anymore. You know, one of my friends said to me, a brother, he said, "Kev, if you do that, you as a Black man will be yet another Black man giving a victory to racism." stopped me in my it was jarring, Dr. Peterson. And so the point of this film is that, brothers, we need to talk so that we can live in another way that is not contributing to the system that ultimately is trying to destroy us. It has been trying to destroy us for 400 years. You know what I'm talking about as a historian.
Absolutely do. I mean, I want to try to give some of the gems from your work and from this film to some of our listeners, Brother Kevin, and just think together a little bit about what are some of the things you're teasing out as the solutions here, right, going forward. Obviously, communication is really big. It's really important because, unfortunately, we are sometimes socialized to repress certain forms of emotional communication. For as long as I've known you, as long as I've seen you in the public doing the work, you've always fought against that. But it's really difficult, particularly with young folks, particularly with those who are just as impacted, to get around that hope. So I understand the communication piece. Are there other pieces you think that we need to be thinking about in terms of cultivating like a new vision of what a black man is and what a black man can be in this current moment and going forward?
I think that's an excellent question, but what I also have found, I need to say this, I have found it's not just young black males, but I'm dealing with brothers in their 50s, 60s, and 70s who can't communicate. And a lot of times brothers ask me, well, what can I do? I'm like, you need to show up not just for your community, for your family, for your loved ones, but you need to show up for yourself. And a lot of times we think that being strong is being silent, being quiet, and keeping things to ourselves. And so communicating with yourself, this is what I'm feeling, this is what I'm going through. I think about, if we use examples of athletes for a second, Dr. Peterson, I love Allen Iverson is my favorite basketball player ever, for a lot of reasons.
Pound for pound, one of the best in the world. Yep.
Yeah, but
you're winning a lot of Philadelphians over with that one, bro. You're winning over every Philadelphia listener with that one.
But his memoir and what he's talking about, honestly, the openness, the fact that he went back and repaired his relationship with his wife. I mean,
that part of the story is incredible.
It's profound. They talk open about his abuse of alcohol and having to get past that. I mean, and his brother is only 50 years old, and it's like, when you started the conversation at the beginning, where you were saying, yes, we were losing all these brothers at 40. When we're losing brothers in their 40s and 50s, that means that we were middle age at 25 and 30.
Wow.
That doesn't make any sense. And think about it. Many of us survived, not getting destroyed. The environment that could have killed us as teenagers or 20-somethings. We survived that.
I survived inner city Newark. You survived inner city Jersey City, right? Like, come on, bro.
But then you're 45, 50, 55, 60, and you're not making it. I mean, when D'Angelo died a couple weeks ago, it was pancreatic cancer. But when I started digging deeper, and I was like, because I had to write a piece about him for Newsweek, and people should check that out. I was just like, man, this brother went through depression. There was alcohol and drug abuse. Yeah. We don't know what the music industry did to him. We don't the things he probably had to carry on from his childhood. He was making secular music. He came from a Pentecostal tradition. Yeah. I grew up in a Pentecostal church in Newark, New Jersey. Even though I was from Jersey City, I know.
You know what that means.
Yeah, man. The shame and guilt you carry around, and you don't talk about it. You know what I mean? So I keep coming back to that, but also making sure that we check in with each other. Like, how are you really doing? Like, you asked me, how are you doing, Kevin? Well, I feel good. I'm happily married because I've been in a lot of toxic relationships in my life. I love my wife because we can talk about everything, anything. We both go to counseling. We both go to therapy. I want to see black women win. She wants to see black men win. In fact, to the point where my wife is the co-producer and co-writer of the film because that's how deeply she loves black men. So I'm like, and Brother Peterson, I'm going to share this with you. My wife asked me when I first met her, because she saw the scars of my first marriage and some other things. She said to me, do you even have the ability to be loved? I was quiet. And I was just like, wow. And you know the kind of vulnerability.
Get yourself a life partner who will ask you a question like that.
Yeah, man. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And so I'm just saying, brothers, we got to go beneath the surface of what like the point of the film is there's layers to who we are, and what the society has done that we oftentimes subconsciously participate in is reducing ourselves just to one dimension. I'm like, no, man. Yes, I'm a hip hop head, but I'm a massive jazz fan. I love classical music. You know what I mean? Yes, I'm a diehard sports fan, but I also can go and do things that have nothing to do with sports whatsoever. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Because I want to be a whole human being, and what this society has done to black males is make us think that we cannot be whole human beings, and that's when I think we start to self-destruct, and we end up hurting ourselves and hurting each other. And brother, I have gone back and apologized to so many people through the years that I feel like I disrespected or hurt in some way. Some have forgiven me, a lot have forgiven me. Some like, I don't have nothing to do with you. I'm like, I have to accept that. What my wife has said to me, what my wife has taught me, Kevin, think about what you're modeling. Are you modeling something that is loving and kind and human as a man, or are you modeling the destructiveness that you were taught? That's what the film is about. That's what the film is about. That's what the film
Brother
is about.
Powell, we only have about a minute left. You and I both were our formative years shaped by hip hop culture. When you look at the culture now, as someone who has been an aficionado of it, who grew up in it, who knew the progenitors of it, really, what do you see now when you look at hip hop now, particularly within the context of constructions around black masculinity?
Well, the person that I love the most is Kendrick Lamar. He actually has evolved into my favorite rapper, and that's saying a lot because Big Daddy Kane was my favorite rapper for most of my life. But from the Mr. Morale album a couple years ago that I wrote about in Complex magazine, I said this brother is being honest and vulnerable about himself, about his relationship with Whitney, his partner, and it was striking to me. And I just feel like this is what we need in hip hop because we know that a lot of hip hop is bravado, it's performative, and I love hip hop. I truly live and die for hip hop. I think my whole energy, my being is hip hop. But we need the vulnerability of Kendrick. We need the vulnerability that Tupac represented at his most beautiful moments, like on Dear Mama and Keep Your Head Up. We need what black males need. Ultimately, we need balance. We need balance, brother. We need balance. We need balance. When I see Deion Sanders be so happy to see Shador pay him a surprise visit the other day, and he hugs and kisses his son. Come on, man. That's
powerful
what we
stuff.
need. I listen to Deion Sanders' press conferences because of the vulnerability that I hear when he speaks. That's what we need. That's what we need. And that's what hip-hop needs. That's what hip-hop needs.
100%. 100%. Yeah. Kevin Powell, one of the most celebrated political, cultural, and literary voices in America, Grammy Award-nominated poet and civil rights activist, has been a part of about every movement of my entire lifetime. It's always incredible to be in conversation with you, good brother. I wish I could make it out to the screening here, but I don't want you to come to Philadelphia anymore without coming to see me, good brother, please.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And please, if folks can make it out to Wilmington tomorrow night, it's the premiere. We're actually opening the Diamond State Black Film Festival in Wilmington, which is the first time we're opening a festival. So it's a great honor, that especially because it's the Black Film Festival and supporting Black radio. I'm glad to be with y'all at WURD. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, brother Kevin Powell. We appreciate you taking time out of your schedule to talk to us tonight.
You're listening to The Week on WURD.
Hi, I'm comedian Lunell, the original bad girl of comedy, and you're listening to WURD Radio.
WURD has always been a platform for Black people in Philadelphia.
We are giving voice to the community, and without the community, there will be no WURD. We are one and the same, and it is not a game. WURD.
Progressive Black Talk Media.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of The Week on WURD. Let's stay connected. Sign up for our newsletter and listen to us online at wordradio.com and on the WURD Radio app.